Hey, my name is Ben. Thanks for stopping by. Today we're installing a reverse osmosis water system. This is from iSpring. I'll link in the description to the exact one that I have if you're interested. This is the RCC100P, and this system is supposed to produce about 100 gallons of reverse osmosis water today, in one day, and it also has a booster pump with it. The reason I needed a booster pump is that I am on a well where my water pressure varies. I have a 20-40 pressure switch, so the pressure switch comes on at 20 psi, turns off at 40, and then back down again. And that's not enough pressure to effectively operate a reverse osmosis system. So a lot of people that are on wells, you're going to want to consider getting a RO system that has a booster pump. So again, look at it in the description. You can look at the model that I got and the specifications. Make sure you read up on exactly what your water pressure is and what system is applicable, so that you don't end up with a system that doesn't work like you wanted it to. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of look at where we're going to install this. In my case, we're putting it in the basement. We're kind of putting it in a central location here where I have a few different lines, one going to the refrigerator, one going to the kitchen, peninsula, and another one going up to the upstairs bathroom, and so on. And so having it in the basement is perfect for me. Now, this system is supposed to be small enough that it can fit underneath the sink. I think that would be a challenge, but it may be possible. Anyway, we're going to do it down here. So we'll get our spot marked out here and get it hung. There, we got it hanging in place now. I have a little piece of, it's actually like shelf material. It's like a plastic coated piece of wood here that's holding it up off of my drywall. That gives me more flexibility for where to position this exactly. So this is mounted here now with a couple of Torx screws, and we are ready to work on the water lines. So we're going to hook up the feed water now. This is the water that actually feeds the whole system. Now this is what they send with it. This is a kit where you can put it on underneath the sink. This threads down onto your stop, and it has an adapter so you can switch it out for different types of fittings. And it taps out here with an 1/8 inch line to feed the system, and this is where then you'd reconnect up to your faucet. Now, since we're putting it in the basement, we don't have a faucet, and so we're doing it a little bit differently. As you can see right here, up at the top, next to this whole house filter that I already installed, I'll link to the installation of that if you're interested. We have the water flowing through this direction, so the water gets filtered, and then it comes out here. And I have an angle stop here with a 3/8 inch compression fitting on it. And we're going to use this to feed our RO system. So initially here, we're going to put a short piece of 3/8 inch PEX, and then we'll reduce down to 1/4 inch with this here adapter. Actually, after thinking about it for a minute, I think I might go ahead and use this anyway. This will work on that angle stop, just like I was saying. So if I install that up there like that, all I have to do is cap off my 3/8 inch compression here. So we'll do that so that we use all of the pieces that they sent. Had to pull these fittings down here a little bit. Thankfully, it was flexible enough so that we can rotate this on here. And we'll get a wrench out here. We don't want to put a lot of pressure on that. We'll just hold this in place here. Now these have gaskets in them, so no thread tape or anything is needed. A little more. Right about there. Looks good. Alright, we're going to put a little piece of 3/8 inch PEX in here, and we're going to start by inserting this stiffener. This helps make sure that this pipe doesn't collapse under the pressure, and I might have to take this down here to push this in. It's kind of stiff. And then we have this little plastic ferrule that slides down on there. That's going to make this the actual compression seal. And finally, our compression nut goes on just like this, and we'll stick this on up here and the nut will pull the ferrule down. And I'll get that snugged up here with the wrench. Shouldn't take too much to make a seal there. A little bit more. Should be good. And then I'll just put a valve on here to shut that off. We'll go ahead and insert this feed line here. Well, we might have to pull that. Do we have to pull that clip out first? I think we do. They just put it on there initially. Push that in. And then reinsert the clip here in a minute. Give it a little tug to make sure that it's not going anywhere. Looks good. Then bring the other side of our line in, right here, where it says first stage sediment. And the whole house water filter is going to help us with that too. With making sure that that doesn't plug up prematurely, especially on this well water that we have here. There we go. I'll just throw my valve on here for turning this line off. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get these valves. So there, we got that off. Now we'll connect the wastewater drain. That's on this side right here. Remove the little clip. And insert our black tube and support this while I do so. You almost got it there. There we go. Slid in good. And put our clip back in there. And then we'll run this to a drain. This can either go to a floor drain or a standpipe. In my case, it's going to be a standpipe. But make sure you use an air gap if you're going to use a standpipe. Now we're going to run our water line to the, let's see here, to the storage tank, and we'll use this yellow connector for that, and that comes right off of the back of this. If I'm not mistaken, am I doing something wrong here? Gotta double check something here. Looks like part of this fitting had popped out here, but luckily they send a couple extra pieces, so should be able to put this in here now. There we go. And then insert the locking clip again. Now we'll install the filter cartridges, starting with stage 1. This is just the sediment filter. So we'll unwrap the filter, paying attention to make sure that if there's any designation for which direction the filter needs to go in, that you pay attention to that. This one doesn't matter. It can go either way. So here we go. We'll just slide that down in there, and we'll make sure that on the bottom here that it fits onto that knob sticking up. And then the same thing on the top here. There's a knob that it goes onto, and then just thread it up onto the top until it seats. And we're just going to hand tighten these. I really think that's about all we need to do. Right there. Looks good. And here's our stage 2 filter. This is the one that matters. This side up, it says, with an arrow pointing up to here. So make sure that you do indeed put that side up. Drop that in there. And again, thread it on. And again, we're just going to do hand tight. You can kind of see up at the top edge here when it kind of bottoms out. Right about there. And here's our third stage. And this one doesn't have a direction of which way is up, but get that in there. and thread it up onto its canister. Pretty simple. And we'll tighten that until it's all the way snug here. Good. Now we're going to put the RO membrane in. First thing we need to do is remove this little clip, push this up here, and pull the tube out like that so that we can get in there. And then we'll spin this cap off of here if we can. There we go. Okie dokie. O-ring looks good and in place there. And then we'll open our RO bag here. And it has an arrow on it here with flow. That'll be going into the cartridge there. So it'll go in this way. We'll open that up. So there's our cartridge. Gonna slide it in this way. And push it until it's fully seated, like that. And then we can thread our cap back on here, again making sure that this gasket is in place correctly, which it looks to be. Get this threaded on here. And we will get it hand tight again, assuming you have pretty strong hands. Okay, that looks good. And we're not going to reconnect this yet. It'll tell us on startup when to do that. Now we're going to wrap some Teflon tape around the top of this tank here. It says about 10 to 15 turns. So since they provided it, I will follow specifically what they instructed. 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12. Okay. But normally I would use both. Oh, there it went. Teflon tape and pipe dope, but this time we'll just follow that. And then we'll take and hand tighten this valve adapter on here. We do not want to over tighten this or this fitting will split. And we'll have a catastrophe on our hands. So we'll go with about like that. And if we need to tighten it a little bit more, we can if we have a leak. We'll go ahead and connect our yellow hose onto this tank. I just have it sitting here for now. I'm going to build a little shelf for it, but until I get that done. And then put one of these little blue clips on to lock it in place. If I can get one of the little blue clips. There we go. There we go. Good. Now we'll connect the outlet of our 5th stage here, which is this last smaller filter here on top. And we'll push our tube down into it, like so. It's always kind of a trick getting it to push all the way in. It has to go in like a good 1/4 inch. And then we'll put our locking clip in again. And the other end of this typically would go right to your RO faucet, but in this case, since we're in the basement, we have to just connect it to our tube that goes to our kitchen RO faucet. So we're going to connect that here with a 3/8 by 1/4 inch push connector by JG. Good company. All right, so here we go. We're going to push this in here. These just feel a lot more solid. I'm not sure. I'm guessing this iSpring stuff it's not like it's the fanciest stuff on earth. Okay, so that's connected there. I will do more work later and connect to my refrigerator and whatever else I need to, but for now that looks good. I will turn off the valve on this tank because we're not going to use that quite yet during our startup process. And then like we saw here earlier, this here tube is disconnected up here. And the reason for that, this is our RO membrane that this tube goes into. So we're going to take this tube and flush it into a bucket to clean these 3 filters out, just to kind of get any carbon excess from the new carbon filters will come out of this here first. So we'll go ahead and slowly turn on the water. First I'm going to turn on this one here, and then we'll turn on this one. And it's going to fill up that stage 1 and continue through the 3 stages. So I'll come back when this gets interesting. And since my system has a pump, we're going to have to go ahead and plug that in here. It's starting to pump. I don't know if you can see it or not, but this water is a little bit of a dark color, which is what they said to expect because of the carbon from that new filter. Definitely is nasty looking here at first, so I'm going to dump this and then we'll flush it again. Finally got smart and set down the bucket. We're probably ran another gallon or so through it. We'll dump it again here soon. And here we go again. So that looks not too bad, so I think I'm satisfied with that. The third, probably about 3 gallons or so that we flushed through there. Now we can reconnect our tubing to our RO membrane inlet and re-lock it into place with the clip there. And now we'll go upstairs and turn on our RO water faucet. And I made a separate video about how to install this exact faucet, so I will link to that in the description. So we'll turn this to the on position, I believe, which should be forward. We'll double check, but that looks right. I'm actually leaving it halfway in between because I'm not totally sure. And our water is already turned on up there, and so we're ready to plug this guy in here again, and we'll check for leaks, but hopefully got under control. Our tank valve is still off, and we're going to leave that off for now. And down is indeed on. And our water is just now starting to drip. And just like the manual predicted, it is kind of nasty looking here at first. But we're going to let this run for at least 10 minutes, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Hey Google, stop. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes, and now we can turn this water off, and then go down and turn that tank valve on. And now it'll start to fill this tank up, and that's going to take a couple of hours. So once this tank fills all the way up, and after a few hours, with the pump it's going to help, it'll go a little bit faster. Then you're going to want to turn on your RO faucet once again and flush all the water out of that tank that is just finished filling. Don't use any of that first fill. And I'd go so far as to say probably should do it twice. Let the tank fill all the way once, so wait a couple hours, drain it, and then wait a couple hours and drain it again. And then you should be getting pretty close. Now, it'd also be a good idea to check for leaks on your system periodically over the first couple weeks, just to make sure that nothing has sprung a leak on the iSpring. And otherwise, this should give you hopefully many reliable years of service. Over here, in case you saw this is temporary. This is the drain line, and I'm going to build a little connector onto here that will allow there to be an air gap. So between where the drain outlet is and the top of this needs to be a gap. And again, link in the description to an air gap fitting that you can put on the top of a standpipe. Otherwise, you can just drain it to a floor drain, and that is an air gap because it just comes here and it doesn't go into the trap receptor itself. So Anyway, that's pretty much it. That's the RO water system installation in the basement. If this video helped you out, please give it a huge thumbs up, and also subscribe to the channel if you're interested. I'd appreciate it a lot. And yeah, thanks for watching. Again, links in the description of this exact system if you're interested, and other accessories that may be useful to you. We'll talk to you in the next video. See ya.